In Nepal, Prime Minister Sharma Oli is scripting his downfall. The ruling Nepal Communist Party is headed for a split. Oli is scrambling to stay in power. Yesterday, he got himself admitted to hospital citing chest pain, an old and cliched trick of politicians trying to evade a crisis. Today, he managed to escape a potential no-confidence vote. The Nepal parliament was in session. This morning, Oli moved to prorogue it. He met the president of Nepal and asked her to discount the session without dissolving it. The prime minister got his wish, and with this move, Comrade Oli has managed to avoid a no-confidence motion from his own party members. But what was the need to shut down the parliament? Oli is facing a rebellion from within. His support has shrunk tremendously. His differences with Pushpa Kamal Dahal have become insurmountable. Dahal, better known as Prachand, has been Nepal's prime minister twice. Prachand and Oli were alliance partners in 2016. They fell out over a power struggle. In 2018, they merged their parties. The two communist parties of Nepal joined hands to become one party, an arranged marriage with China playing the matchmaker. But like all things made in China, this too may not last. The differences between Oli and Prachand are coming out in the open. On Wednesday, 31 out of 45 standing committee members took a stand against Oli. This is the highest decision-making body of Nepal's ruling party, and it has turned against the Prime Minister. They all want him to step down. So Comrade Oli prorogued the parliament. He bought himself some time. Reports say he's planning to bring an ordinance now, something that could delay the split of his party. But will the tactics work? Can Oli save his seat? This is where China comes into the picture. China supports Oli, and he is banking on Beijing to weather this storm. China's interest in Nepal has been growing tremendously in the last decade. They're rapidly expanding their footprint. China's ambassador to Nepal, Hu Yangqi, has become deeply intertwined in the country's political setup. She has been spotted with top politicians in Nepal. According to a report, the ambassador held a meeting with key leaders of the Nepal Communist Party, the ruling party, in the month of May. And she convinced them to work together instead of fighting each other. Well, the intervention in May have helped Oli. But today things are very different. China's influence is not limited to politics. In 2019, the trade volume between China and Nepal touched $1.5 billion. China is the second largest source of tourists in Nepal. China pulls strings in Nepal using its checkbook. It's pouring money to buy compliance. China, by far, is the biggest aid provider for Nepal. Its grant is valued at $106 million. In return, it gets more access. Here's an example. China picked up 25 reconstruction projects after the earthquake in Nepal. And this was in 2015. China is building its soft power too. Last year, several private schools in Nepal made Mandarin a compulsory subject for students. Why should students in Nepal learn China's language? Because China has long-term plans for this country. Who will fund this? Beijing will. Reports say the Chinese government offered to cover the salaries of the teachers in these schools. Well, that's the extent of China's influence in Nepal. And in exchange for some Chinese funds and the promise of power, Prime Minister Oli has turned a blind eye to China's land grab. This very same man launched a diplomatic war with India over disputed territories and false claims. But he remains blind to China usurping Nepal's land. His party and his countrymen are not blind, though. They've called out the Prime Minister and they want him out. Sharma Oli only has himself to blame for what's happening.